This is going to be one of those videos that I'm going to lose my shit in.
So many teachers quitting right now.
Teaching in the year 2025 is not the same career as it was teaching before the pandemic.
I don't know what's happened to education. It breaks my heart.
I feel like we are reaching a point where like something's got to give, and I don't know that we can keep going like this.
Puts two hands up like this close to my face, and goes, pshh, 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 pshh. These kids are horrible. Horrible.
Why do I need to know any of this if a computer or AI can do it for me?
But what's happening now is on a whole other level.
I have 2 hours left of my school day and I'm leaving because I'm so stressed out.
I remember when I was younger, I wanted to be a teacher, the whole teaching someone, and see them finally getting it. I used to have a teacher that I looked up to that was instrumental for my growth. But now seeing these videos of teacher being fed up, I'm glad I didn't do it.
There are so many teachers quitting right now in America, and I can guarantee you it's related to these three things. Student behavior and how there are no consequences for horrible student behavior. Number two, no support from admin at all with the horrible behavior. And then number three, the amount of work that teachers put in does not equal our take-home pay. And I know what you're gonna say, but you get paid for summer and for your breaks. Honey, our salary is broken up into 12 months, but we only get paid for the time that we work. They just do teachers a favor and divide that by 12 so we get paid through the summer. But the amount of work that we do outside of the classroom, insane. Some of y'all wouldn't last a day in our shoes.
Teaching. My quick check-in for the day. First period drove me nuts. That is my only 10th grade class. And what I'm learning is that they think everything is funny. Everything is hilarious. They don't take the work seriously. Let me show y'all. So I read through a poem with them, right? And I asked them to read this on their own. This is the passage. 1, 2, 3 paragraphs. This is too much, miss. 3 paragraphs is too much. And he says it with a smirk and a smile. And it made me mad. Because what do you mean reading a 3-paragraph passage is too much? That's too hard. How many words is this? 10th graders. Mind you, I remember reading Beowulf in 10th grade. Is that not what I was reading in 10th grade? Like, reading it and trying to comprehend. And they want to complain to me about 3 paragraphs. 3 paragraphs. I started contacting parents. Because if I'm stressed, you're about to be stressed with me. I'm not going to be the only one stressed in this situation. No way in hell. Please talk to them about taking school more seriously. Because what are we here for? What is your expectation when you walk into this building? This is an English class. We're shocked and appalled and disappointed that we need to read and write. And I am asking them for the bare minimum. And they still complain. I'm over it. I'm done. I'm tired. It's exhausting. I have to repeat myself 1,000 times a day. And I just don't understand the confusion. Like, I don't get it because I wasn't this type of student. So I'm having a very hard time being, what's the word? Understanding. And I look at myself as a very understanding person, like very understanding, very lenient. But I'm having a really hard time being sympathetic to their situation because this is nothing. And yet we're complaining. We're going into 5th period. And it's an early release Monday. And this is how I'm feeling.
So, like, we're all talking about how public schools are not sustainable, right? But seriously, what is the conversation? Because I am a speech language pathologist. I work full-time in the school. So I'm on a SPED team, and we have a school psychologist, a case manager, applied skills classroom, emotional disability classrooms, STEP classrooms, which is an autism classroom. We have every program that you can think of here in our district, and still it feels like we are constantly on fire in the SPED world. Our evaluation list and reevaluation list is through the roof. I've never seen our list so long, and it doesn't seem to be stopping or shrinking anytime soon. I feel like it's so common that we have pretty extreme behaviors, even from students that are in just gen ed, and parents have concerns, teachers have concerns, so naturally they come to the SPED team. And I guess I'm just like, what do they want us to do? Do we just continue to label everything as OHI, other health impairment, meaning that's ADHD, ADD, ODD, whatever the case may be, because they're inattentive, they're hyperactive, oppositional, but it's not like parents are taking their students outside and getting formal diagnoses from their pediatricians, from their psychologists, from their psychiatrists. Where is the line is what my question is. Where do we say, no, this is something more, and just giving them a label of OHI or language impairment is going to help them? It definitely frustrates me as an SLP, because what used to be a true language impairment is now getting confused, and the lines are getting blurred with it being more, in my opinion, a language delay, because the exposure and things that should have been happening before students are entering school aren't happening anymore. There's no formal teaching at home, it seems like, so then they're coming to school with skills that are not aligning with the curriculum as they should be. They don't have that school readiness. I'm getting the referral, I'm completing the evaluations, their scores are showing that they're falling below. And yes, I know that scores aren't everything, but it's like they're falling below. So I just say, no, they don't have a language impairment, it's just lack of exposure, stay in the classroom. But then they're still not going to catch up. So what is the solution? I feel like as an SLP, my job is to always have solutions. My job is to problem solve, truly. And I feel like I'm pretty good at that. I pat myself on the back when it comes to coming up with ideas. I feel very creative and innovative, and I have a hard time taking no for an answer, which I think is a strength of mine. So I don't know. I guess it's just, what are we supposed to do in schools when the lists are so high? We don't have a caseload cap. My numbers are higher and higher every single year. Even though I'm doing my best to get students off, dismiss them appropriately, it seems like I'm never going to be able to catch up. This rant can go on and on and on, because this is the dilemma that's been facing public schools probably since the beginning of time. But it seems like it's only getting worse as the climate of our economy is changing, the expectations of parents and families are changing, the way that technology plays such a huge role in a lot of these families and children's lives. It just seems like they're coming to school, all of our professional expertise are coming to the table to problem solve, to come up with solutions, but then that stops once they leave the building. So what's the point? It makes what we're doing sometimes just feel pointless. And I know what we're doing is not pointless, but if there's no carryover and there's no generalization.
Halfway through the project, I had 5 kids come up and say, "Can we do something else now?" And that was the moment I realized our kids don't know how to stick with something anymore. I've been teaching since 1993. And yes, we have always had kids who struggle to focus. But what's happening now is on a whole other level. If you're just meeting me, I'm Melissa, and I have been teaching forever. About 7 to 10 years ago, I started to see a shift. Suddenly, every child had a phone or tablet, and parents, understandably, were using them to keep their kids quiet. Of course, I did it with my own kids sometimes too. But now, it's different. Kids aren't playing outside. They're not learning how to be bored. They're not learning conflict resolution skills. And they don't know how to listen or sit still anymore. I used to show a movie that connected to our lesson, and the kids were so excited. Now I've got kids asking to skip it. They literally can't just sit and watch. Do you remember how it used to feel when the teacher would pull out the cart with the big TV and the VCR attached? Yeah, not anymore. Now kids need constant stimulation. So yes, focus issues have always been around. but nothing like what I've seen in the past decade.
In the year 2025 is not the same career as it was teaching before the pandemic. And I think a lot of people just aren't talking about it because the people who were in it before the pandemic are the only ones who have seen how drastic of a change this is. And if you are somebody who's thinking about becoming a teacher, you are basing that sentiment and that feeling and that draw toward the profession based on your experience as a student. Your childhood memories, even up to high school, is not the same environment. If you were in high school when the pandemic started, you still knew what it felt like to be in a real elementary school class, a real middle school class where there was projects and there was creativity and the curriculum wasn't scripted. And the change isn't entirely because of the pandemic, but the pandemic is a great marking place that divided this. It's the continental rift, right? It's because before the pandemic, teachers were the curriculum. There was a curriculum to follow, but it was more of a pacing guide. And now we have what's called a scripted curriculum. And you would be shocked by how many teachers have a scripted curriculum. And this means that teachers are not the autonomous professionals. Teachers are not the ones who earned their degree and they have the depth of subject knowledge and they are the ones who are deciding what happens every day. The script is. They're going by a script. And the idea behind the script is that any administrator can walk into any classroom on any day of the year and everyone will be on the same page, literally. And this, plus all of the additional duties, responsibilities, and things to cry over in teachers' lives, is the reason why so many teachers really have to stick to that script, is because they literally do not have the bandwidth emotionally, intellectually, physically to do the things that they want to do, even if they have been teachers since the 90s, since the 2000s. Teaching is not the same, and it has gone so deeply into this hole that it cannot be the same again. And this is why the shift has happened where behaviors have escalated crazy. It's not because of just parents, it's not just because of students, like it's all of these conditions together. Behaviors are not going to go back to the way they were before. The environment of a classroom is not ever going to go back to what you thought it was before. Everything has changed so drastically, so quickly, and in the wrong direction that it is irretrievable. I know this in my heart as somebody who was a teacher from 2014 to 2022. And I know this in my heart as a parent who is observing these changes going on. And I know this in my heart as somebody who has very close friendships with teachers who are creators on this app. People often ask me, would you go back? I cannot go back. There's not something to go back to. It's not about the money. It never was about the money. That's not why I left education. It's about the conditions and what's going on and how this is impacting teachers and students. It's no longer an environment that I can see myself ever being in and not wanting to scream every moment of the day. I needed the freedom and the autonomy that I was trusted as a professional. And if I go back into a school, I do not have that freedom. I do not have that autonomy. I do not have that trust. I am not considered the knowledgeable person in the room, even though I have the responsibility ultimately at the end of the day for every learner in that room. So you get all of the responsibility, but with none of the autonomy. Schools are the narcissistic controller and the one who's profiting from the teacher's efforts, and teachers are the victim in the abusive relationship. And the students are the ones who are just catching the strays.
The smartest students are going to fail my class this semester. These are students who are incredibly engaged. They listen, they engage in conversation, they ask questions. However, they're not doing the work. Now, I've had direct conversations with these students saying, what's going on? What can I help you with? And what I keep hearing often is that they don't feel motivated to do work outside of the classroom. Now, we kind of dug deeper and dissected that a little bit more, and really what is going on is they can't self-motivate themselves to do anything that they don't want to do in an independent setting where an adult or superior figure is telling them to do something. And I don't honestly know how to feel about it. I feel mixed emotions. Like, I'm sad to think that some of the students that, if I wasn't looking at my grade book and I was just looking in the classroom, I'd be like, those are the best students over there. But I know they're not going to pass my class. And is it they're not doing the work?
Hi, it's Monday, and I'm coming to y'all a little early because I am just absolutely drained. I'm drained, and I did see a few TikToks last week that got me thinking, and I wanted to reiterate a few things. And that is that about 90% of my job in teaching is managing behavior. I know that I could teach anything, but if they're hanging from the ceiling, it's like corralling cats every day, and I mean feral cats. But it's about managing behavior, and I would like to reiterate that I do feel like it has everything to do with the fact that kids used to be more social. They used to be over at friends' house. They would play outside all day with the neighbors' kids. They would be in and out of their homes. And I don't know about you all, but when I was brought up, the village disciplined the kids, right? My parents' friends disciplined us. They held same standards. You know, they would tell us what we could and could not do. And I say that because the things that adults deem to be socially normal for kids are no longer there. Like, meaning we hold that expectation, but the kids can't adhere to it because it's not been ingrained in their souls. Right? It's not been ingrained in their souls. I had to argue with a child today who went to get tissues. And when he picked up the box, there were no tissues in the box. And do you know what he did? He set the box back down and didn't dispose of the box. And when I said, do you think that you could throw that away? He said, I didn't do it. I didn't empty that box of Kleenex, so therefore I'm not going to dispose of it. Miss Walker, I'm going to go throw this away right now, even though you're up in the middle of lecture. Even though that's not, sit down. I'm doing something. And what's happening is that I'm now spending my waking days parenting over and over and over social norms. Hey, when this kid says, hey, can I have your orange because you're not going to eat it? And you allow him to, that doesn't mean to chuck it as hard as you can and hit him in the head with it. And I just want you all to think about the last time you had a 14-year-old that you occupied without a phone all day learning something. And I want you to take that 14-year-old and I want you to multiply it by 32 at 8:30 in the morning or 2:30, whatever.
This is my 13th year teaching high school and my 10th year teaching AP Lit, my second year teaching AP Seminar. And I've noticed a troubling trend with my students over that period that has progressively gotten worse with a huge spike right after COVID that I can't not talk about it anymore. The trend is that teenagers, kids in general, are significantly less able to critically think or solve problems on their own without help. I've got examples. For example, they will type in, I've noticed this a lot in AP Seminar, they will type in one long, complicated search phrase, and when they don't immediately on the first page of results see exactly what they're looking for, they give up and they come to me and they, instead of saying, how can I search better or what am I doing wrong, they go immediately to, well, there's no articles on my topic, so I need to pick a new topic. Like immediately giving up after one try typing a question into a research database that is so complicated and conditional and convoluted that there's no way anybody would come up with results for it. Another example is this happens daily, literally daily in all of my classes. Asking a question that is clearly and blatantly addressed in the step-by-step instructions for whatever it is they're doing. And then when I point out, oh, that's in the instructions, they still follow that up with, yeah, but you could just tell me, right? Related to that last example, if I give them an assignment with said step-by-step instructions, like my writing revision assignment that is 8 very simple steps, every single time we do it, over 50% of my AP students miss one or more of the steps. This problem has gotten so severe that I have stopped regrading written revisions if all 8 of the steps are not followed. And these are not big steps. I'm talking like step 1 is copy and paste the essay from AP Classroom onto a Google Doc. That's step 1 by itself. Step 2 is color code the essay and I give them the key. Like, these are very simple steps. These are not convoluted steps. I've started returning them and I won't regrade them until they can complete all 8 of the steps. This one seems minor and silly, but I think it's related and I think it's important. I have noticed a significant increase over the last few years of dumb, lazy grammatical errors, even when the students have spell check turned on, which blows my mind. Another big one, students asking for help on a writing assignment, and when I go to help them, it turns out they haven't even looked at the very detailed and extensive feedback that I've already provided them before asking the question. For example, student turns in a piece of writing. I give lots of feedback on that writing along with the AP score associated with the AP rubric for that piece of writing. They go in to rewrite and revise that assignment in order to get more points. And in the process of their rewrite, they come to me to ask for help. And it becomes very clear once I start asking them questions that they have not even seen the feedback I've given. And when I ask them if they've read it, they say, oh, I didn't know that was there, even though it's very clearly on the page. And finally, just a general and blatant refusal to even attempt any kind of problem solving on their own. They will come ask me the most basic questions about functionality in Google Docs. How do I switch to suggesting mode? Even though that's clearly outlined with pictures in step-by-step instructions that I've given them, it's also a really simple Google question. Like pulling up Google and quickly saying how to switch to suggesting mode in Google Docs, or how to highlight text in Google Docs. Like something so banal is impossible for them to figure out on their own. I get asked 85,000 questions a day. And people talk about, with moms and teachers, like decision fatigue. I don't know if I'd call it decision fatigue because most of these questions are so simple and basic that there's not really a decision that I have to make, but question fatigue for sure. Having to answer questions that any self-respecting person should be able to figure out on their own with 0 to no effort, but I'm answering them for 15 people in a row at any given point in the day. I think that's where some of the teacher burnout comes from. So drop a line in the comments and let me know what evidence, what examples do you see in your students of a loss of just basic problem solving, critical thinking skills. I am working on trying to adjust and account for that and kind of like force these kids to start thinking for themselves. I've stopped answering these questions with actual answers and started responding with questions in return to kind of force their brains to like kick in. And I've started, like I mentioned before, returning assignments that don't follow the instructions and saying, hey, I'm not going to grade this until you've followed all the instructions that are clearly laid out for you. Other than that, I'm not sure what else to do, but what other examples of this?
This is going to be one of those videos that I'm going to lose my shit in. Okay. I am so sick and tired of sitting through IEP meetings because they're bull. In my state anyway. They're excuses. These people writing these IEPs for these kids spend maybe a half hour every evaluation, which is what, every 6 to 8 weeks, maybe even more than that. And then they write it on a piece of paper that is complete bullshit. They're not spending every day in the classroom where these kids are terrors, okay? These kids are spitting, they're hitting, they're kicking, they're hurting their friends consistently. But because the IEP meeting went well, mom's all happy about it. And your kid's still a hole. You changed the diagnosis to autism. Well, big deal. The mom said he's pooping his pants, and they literally looked at her and said, oh, welcome to have an autistic kid. That's what they do. Bullshit. Your kid doesn't just shit his pants at 5 years old because he's autistic after he's been potty trained for 3 years. We've got to stop making exceptions for these kids. They're going to get nowhere in life if we continue to walk on eggshells and reward them for their bad behavior. There, I said it. I'm done. Rant over.
I'm a former teacher and now parent, and I can see a splitting that's happening in society, and it has nothing to do with politics. I did another video regarding this, having to do with a splitting regarding technology and moderation versus not. This is something entirely different, but connected. The splitting is parents who teach their kids versus those that don't. Why are teachers leaving in droves, and many of them are homeschooling their kids? If you were just leaving, it's one thing, but leaving and pulling your kids is a whole nother part. Generally speaking, here's what I saw. First of all, it is not cool to learn at all. It's not cool to be respectful to teachers or people in general. Being a victim is viewed as a good thing. And from a general sense, we have dumbed down schools. We are eliminating gifted classes, and just the class structure itself has changed. So what an honor student looks like today is not what it looked like 20 years ago. And the bottom, which used to be a baseline of had some semblance of knowledge and intellect, is now unable to read, unable to write, unable to think. And the school systems are passing these kids along regardless of that. Now, what teachers see is the dumbing down of society, the bringing everyone down. And so you might be the parent who's saying like, but I teach my kid, so they're going to be okay. Are they? Because if the school is now moving everything downward towards the bottom and having to deal with these bottom, is your kid being challenged, being pushed? Because what I've seen is that it now no longer is good to push through hard. If a kid complains and they're like, no, this is too hard, we are very quick to be like, all right, well, here's a way of making it easier. That's not how we grow. And it should be teachers who know this. But it doesn't help that they're not getting the support to push the upper level kids up higher. And because they're so busy with dealing with the bottom that they can't deal with the top. So then there's this split, and the top ones are not being challenged or pushed as much as they should be. And the bottoms are the ones being catered to, but it's so hard to move them anywhere with absolutely zero support from home. And that's what it all comes down to. The parents that spend time at home teaching their kid, pushing their kid, challenging their kid so that they excel and keep moving upward and learning how to deal with failure are going to do so much more in life just in general than the ones who are continued to be like, it's okay. It's okay to be offended. It's okay that you can't read. It's okay that you can't do that. We're just going to push you along. We're just going to push you along. It's fine. And along with this, it's a total lack of emotional intelligence, which is why a kid tries something, fails, and then it's, I'm stupid. I'm dumb. I'll never know this. Fixed mindset, closed mindset, and not having the mental capacity to understand that it's okay to fail. It's okay to make mistakes, and challenging things make you grow. That's why the thing is, whether the teacher leaves or doesn't leave, their kids are going to have a leg up because teachers realize that this is what's happening in schools and know that they have to challenge their kid more at home because it's not really going to be happening at school. And we're honestly seeing the beginning stages of the movie Idiocracy, where people get into society, they're kids that are going to become adults, where they can't read, they can't write, and they're so easily manipulated because they're always just flowing with the cool thing. And they're like, tell me what to do. Tell me what to do. Okay, I guess everyone else is doing this, so I'll just do it. There's absolutely no critical thinking. And that's how you end up with, wait, Gatorade is better because it has electrolytes. Come on, bruh. You should know that. And the thing is, that's moving towards the majority. So yeah, what are the things that are splitting us? It's the use of technology, it's the use of AI, and it is just plain and simple parents. And yes, the kids who only have one parent or divorced parents definitely are going to have an even tougher time with this, because that's a really hard thing to overcome given the school systems. So we are moving towards a haves and have-nots, but it's you have good parents or you don't. And because all this is going on, being a good parent is actually becoming easier, not harder. But that is if that parent has emotional intelligence and knows what's going on with schools to be able to realize that they're going to be the ones that have to challenge their kids. And that's just my thoughts of the day.
I believe culture has changed. Teacher used to get apples by their student and small gift. Now they only get attitude. I have also seen teachers sharing way too much of their personal life to student. When I was younger, I only knew the teacher's name. I didn't know if she had kids, married, or what she does in her spare time. It will be interesting to see how the teaching jobs will be in the future. With AI, maybe more and more people will homeschool or utilize AI more efficiently. Thanks for watching, and I see you in the next one, and let's enjoy the collapse.